Good afternoon. I'd like to welcome everyone to today's interactive web-based meeting on collaborating on national and local revenue cycle staff development programming for Region 5 chapter officers and directors. Sorry about that. My name is Nancy Smith, and I'm Chapter Education Coordinator for HFMA, and I'm also going to be your moderator for today. We really do appreciate everyone's time commitment to participate in today's very important meeting. And before we begin, I'd like to go over a few housekeeping items with everyone so you know what to expect. You can download today's presentation and handouts from the Handouts pod. It actually says Presentation in Handouts pod on your screen. And these are the same handouts that you received in the email. They're just there as a convenience for you. Today's meeting will include an overview presentation with a live tour of the CRCR, followed by a Q&A and discussion, which is going to be done both over phone lines and through the Q&A pod located at the bottom left of your computer screen. Now, if you have your computer speakers on, you are going to be able to hear the audio over your computer. However, if you haven't already, we also recommend that you dial into the meeting by telephone so that you can participate in the discussion after the presentations. The dial-in number can be found in the pod on your screen labeled Audio Q&A Instructions. By doing this, it does mean that you're going to have audio from both your phone and your computer. So you'll want to either turn off the sound on your computer or turn it down, or put your phone line on hold so that it'll be there when we get to the discussion part of the presentation. The phone lines will be muted during the presentation portions of the meeting. And if you do have a question that comes up during that presentation portion, feel free to submit it at any time by typing it into the Q&A pod so that you don't forget it. Just as an FYI, this meeting is being recorded, and it will be available in about 2 weeks for those chapter leaders who weren't able to attend today. Joe Abel, HFMA's Director of Professional Resources, will be leading today's meeting, along with Jamie Cunningham, who's HFMA's Learning Support Specialist, who will conduct our live demonstration. And before I turn the meeting over to Joe, let's briefly review the purpose of today's meeting. First, we want to provide you with information on the CRCR program, highlighting the similarities and the differences between the CRCR program and the CPAR and the CRCA programs from Region 5. We want to talk about some of the potential avenues of collaboration between HFMA and the Region 5 chapters concerning these programs. And finally, we want to be able to give you information and tools that you can use with your respective board of directors as you discuss those various collaboration options back at home. And at this time, I'd like to turn the meeting over to Joe Abel. Joe?
Thank you very much, Nancy, and I would like to add my welcome to all of you chapter leaders who have made time to be with us this afternoon. This meeting is the result of a suggestion made from a meeting held August the 11th with Region 5 chapter leaders and the regional executive, Dwight Tillman. At that time, we were discussing the CRCR program and potential collaboration between our national office and the chapters, and felt that it was important to make sure that all the chapter leaders across the region were in tune with the discussion and plans that are unfolding. I thought I'd begin this afternoon by sharing with you what exactly is the CRCR. It is HFMA's newest professional certification. In addition to the fellowship and the CHFP, the Certified Healthcare Finance Professional, we now have the Certified Revenue Cycle Representative. It's an online program that includes a comprehensive self-study in the 7 areas identified on your screen, and includes a very thorough and robust comprehensive exam at the end. The CRCR is intended for revenue cycle staff, so professional staff who would report to HFMA members and associated departments. As you can see, it's a very wide cross-functional program intended to infuse business knowledge across the revenue cycle. The program was launched 2 years ago. It was in October of 2009 that the program went live. It was not at the time offered as a full certification. It has been in something of a little bit of a trial period. There were 2 primary objectives with the program. As I mentioned, we wanted to develop the business knowledge and comprehension across the revenue cycle, and we wanted to be able to assess and validate that knowledge and skills were there. In June of this year, at the recommendation of HFMA's Board of Examiners, the National Board of Directors approved offering the CRCR program as a full certification. So it is now the Certified Revenue Cycle Representative. What we would like to explore with you is the possibility of collaboration, because so much of the content overlaps, and because you in the region bring some very special features that the CRCR program does not have. I thought it would be good to take a deep dive into the program for you, so we want to take a little tour of the CRCR program. As I mentioned, it lives on HFMA's website, and I'd like to turn the program now over to Jamie Cunningham, our Learning Support Specialist. Jamie?
And as I turn things over to Jamie, you're going to see it change on your screen as I shift over to the web so that we can show it to you.
All right, thank you, Nancy. All of the e-learning courses that HFMA has are on our learning management system, and those are actually, you gain access to those by just logging into our website and clicking on the My eLearning tab, our link right here. So we use the same username and passwords as your password when you log into our website. I'm going to demonstrate, I'm going to go kind of a different route because we're still in the testing stages of the CRCR going live, and log in on this screen. So from our home page, that My eLearning link, this is where the student would actually show up to take an e-learning course. So I'm logged in as a fake student here, and you can see this is the e-learning course. And to actually get into the content, you would just click Launch. The course consists of 3 modules, final exam, and a course evaluation. And you start out right on Module 1, and then if you have a certain amount of time to finish the course, so if you log back in, it will pick up where you left off from the last time you were logged in. And I'm just going to proceed to the next screen. You just keep hitting this next button. You have glossary of terms, menu, and so forth, and then I'm going to proceed on to the introduction. Once we get to this course structure, I can turn it back over to you if you want to explain. Keep going?
Yeah, keep going, please.
Okay.
You're doing well. Would you open Chapter 2? Maybe we'll take a look at the patient access area.
Okay. And the student would just keep reading, clicking next. There are certain areas that have interactivity for the student. I'm going to get to a screen with some interactivity. Here's an example. They would just click on boxes with more information. So throughout the course, you can see this particular chapter has 126 pages. So it might take a while to get through. And throughout, again, there's more activity. I don't know if you want to go into any detail of the content at all, Joe?
Let's not go too deep there. Would you show us the certification exam, Jamie? Give us a look at that.
So after the 3 modules are completed, you can take an exam. I did take this exam previously, so I had to clear out my score, so I'm going to start a new session. Oh, it's not going to let me start. Sorry. It does make you wait 30 days if you've passed the test, and with this fake student, I had passed the test already.
Would you take us back to the module before,
Module 3 or module?
where we were? Any one of the modules would be fine. Would you show us questions at the end of the module?
Oh, sure.
The questions at the end of the module function very much like the exam questions do. They're structured the same way.
There's review questions after each chapter.
This will provide you a feel for the type of questions on the CRCR exam.
With each answer, there is feedback, whether you answered correctly or not. Let me know when you want me to. I think there's about 12 questions.
Oh, all right. Thank you. I think folks have an idea of what it would be like.
And then once you've completed and passed the final exam, you do get a certificate, and I can click on there. And it populates with your name and the course and the date.
Very good.
Okay, we're going to shift again so that we can continue with the presentation. So bear with me for a minute while I get back to our PowerPoint.
We would be happy to demonstrate more of the CRCR program towards the end of the call, too, if you have interest in that. Well, the program has been out for 2 years. It has been elevated to a full certification program. What's been the experience so far? We have 30 plus, almost 40 now, diverse entities that use this program. As you can see, they range from fairly good-sized provider systems to academic medical centers, standalone community hospitals, and even the payer community. As we explored the value of the program, the users report some interesting gains. My hunch is these are also the gains that you see from your certification programs at the chapter level. It's these robust results that led us to move towards certification. Now, by way of getting down to the topic focus, I want to spend a little time talking with you about partnerships. If you were able to look at the handouts before the call, one of the ones that was provided to you was a high-level comparative analysis of the CRCR programs, the CPAR programs, and the CRCA programs. In that documentation, you will see that there is a fair amount of similar content offered in the program, and you'll also see that there are some very unique features. In particular, the state programs have very strong regulatory sections. When I talk about partnerships, I want to be very clear that by partner, I mean co-designing where we go. This is not HFMA's agenda to force any kind of a collaboration. There's some very unique opportunities, I think, to join together and to really serve the markets in Region 5 and our members in a rather unique way. One of the key concerns that I hold is that last bullet. There is very strong chapter programming in Region 5. There has been for many years, and I would seek to maintain and to build on that. Again, the directions for where this will go is going to be largely up to you, the chapter leaders, as to what we think would be best for the members in your area. What I'd like to share with you are 3 large frameworks to think about partnershiping in. They are not defined. That will be the work of the chapters with us, I hope. Nancy, if you chose the first partnership option, this one I call Partner Light. In many ways, it's business as usual. What would be a little different is that we would mutually recognize and support the programs in Region 5. The region and HFMA would independently market the programs. They'd be independently administered. It's more along the lines of both sides recognizing and talking about the value in Region 5 of both programs. Okay, easy one to do. Number 2, this is a model where we would integrate possibly the programs, the chapter, region programs, and national. I'll take just a couple moments to go slowly through this for you. These are large dynamics that we're talking about. This is not the definition of what these would look like. It is possible that the chapter program could continue as it is in Region 5 as a state-specific module to the CRCR program. So, for example, in Georgia, there would be the CPAR program as an additional model to the CRCR. The administration of the program would all fall under HFMA's responsibility, so that would alleviate a lot of the administrative burdening for you. The chapter would be responsible for that state module's content, and the content would be reviewed annually, as the CRCR is, and updated at that time. We could talk about the designations. Perhaps the CRCR is awarded to everyone. Perhaps the CRCR and the state designation coexist. So someone in Region 5 would earn a CRCR designation, attesting to national knowledge and business skills, and they would have the CPAR designation, talking about their skill and facility with state regulations. We recognize that the programming that you do also is a revenue stream for you. We would certainly talk about revenue sharing arrangements in the chapters and the sales of the programs in the chapters. We would need to sit down with you and figure out what would be good for both sides and would be equitable. Interestingly enough, the programming that you do, if we decide to do a chapter module with you, the module could be available as a template for other chapters who may also want to develop a state-specific module. I do want to let you know that the programming that you do in Region 5 is very unique. There are no other regions with chapters that offer their own state-specific certification program. So you're to be commended for the work that you've done. You are trailblazing. Okay, Nancy, option number 3, or potential model number 3. I call this the sunset model. Perhaps as a chapter you may decide this has been a lot of work, it's been very good. It is not something that we necessarily would like to continue going forward in the same capacity. It is possible that we could talk about HFMA simply purchasing the rights to the chapter programming. We could talk about how to sunset and transition the program. We could talk about where the certification designations go. Perhaps everybody becomes CRCR, or they are CRCR and the state designation that they've already earned. A couple of things I wanted you to be aware of with this. You do not have to make a decision today on the telephone call. The concern that the chapter presidents and the regional exec had at the last call is that accurate information got out to everyone so that you could begin to discuss what it is that you as a chapter would like to do. There were 2 deadlines that were set by the chapter presidents and the regional exec. The first one is September the 16th. At that time, what I would like to know from each of the chapters is where you're inclined to go. Which of the options seems to make the most sense for you? Any questions that you might have, information that you may need, further discussions that have to be held, if you could let me know by September the 16th. January 1 of 2012 is our firm go, no-go, we're going to partner, and in what capacity date. We would like to think of partnershiping as, if we are joining forces, as really becoming effective more towards next year. We do not want to disrupt chapter plans and programming this year. We recognize that there are a host of issues that need to be addressed in terms of how to speak to the region as to what we are doing. I do want to let you know that the Fall President's Meeting is late September, and I would imagine, I'd be willing to bet that the plans for the regional programming for frontline revenue cycle staff will likely be on the agenda. It's on the radar screen of the presidents in the region. With that, what I would really like to do is open this up to discussion, to your thoughts, to your ideas, questions that you may have. Again, we are still in the very early stages of this. I invite you to true partnership. Let's co-design together. So, Nancy, if I could ask you to facilitate questions?
Absolutely. Once again, you can participate in the discussion and question and answer section in one of two ways. If you're already dialed in on your telephone, you can hit *pound on your telephone keypad to enter the question queue, and a staff member from meeting one will direct you from there. And it's not too late to dial in if you haven't yet. Once again, that dial-in number is located on your computer screen in the audio Q&A instructions pod. And then you can also type a question or comment into the Q&A pod on the screen. So we'll wait a second and see if any questions come in. It will take a second for people to transition.
And we have a couple audio questions here already.
Okay, great. We'll go ahead and let you get started.
All right. Caller, please state your name and your question.
Hi, this is Brian Walker, the chairman of the Circuit Committee in South Carolina, have been for 3 years.
Hi, Brian. Welcome.
Hi. I have a question regarding the cost of the program. I think initially when CRCR first came out, it was being sold to entities so that someone, an organization would have to sign up for their employees to participate. Mm-hmm. Now we leave that up to the individual, so in other words, the cost is lower. An individual person could register for the program. So what are you, considering these are staff line employees that aren't really highly paid, what kind of cost are you looking at for the program in either model, any of the models?
Very, very good question. You point to a couple things I want to share. Right now, our thinking about the price point is $400 for an individual. And if we begin to get multiple purchases, we do significant and substantial discounting.
For an organization.
For an organization. My personal view is that there's not going to be a lot of the professional staff folks that would get this themselves. Though they could if they wish. Most of our experience with the sales has been that they are organizational sales, and so we do some pretty good discounting. When you get up to purchasing, somewhere around about 10 license, if I can use that word, the price drops down to around $300. If you get up to 15, we're down into about the $250 range. The CRCR program, just so you're aware, is available through 2 distribution channels. One, as Jamie pointed out, is HFMA's LMS. You can buy it through our website. We can handle up to, at this moment, roughly 20 to 25 learners, because the program is also available through MC Strategies. They are a web platform partner. They handle large clients, and sometimes it's easier for facilities to go to a full-scale platform delivery. So you can go 2 ways. Again, we'd start individual. If an individual bought it, would be $400. At 10, it drops to $300. At 15, you're down around about $250 or so.
Okay. Thank you.
Your point was well made. We understand that these are not folks that necessarily have lots of education dollars donated to them. We also appreciate that these are not HFMA members. The candidates do not have to be HFMA members to hold a certification.
Right, and our program is probably half that cost for individuals, and so that may be a tough sell.
Yeah, that's a good point. I'd certainly be open to exploring that more, Brian, with folks maybe in your area in Carolinas to try and match your price.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
All right, we'll move to the next question. Caller, please state your name and question.
This is Karen at Georgia, and I was going to ask the same question about the cost, and we will have to discuss that also like South Carolina. Our cost is $150 per individual, so $400's a little for us.
I appreciate the feedback on the cost. Thank you very much. I will probably follow up and ask what other people charge. So.
All right, we have another question here on the queue now. Caller, please state your name and your question.
Hi, this is Tavy Bender, the CPAR chair here in Alabama, and we would have the same concerns about the cost because we actually only charge $50 now because a lot of these positions, what we find is a lot of the people that actually take the CPAR exam are coming into healthcare at an entry-level position, likely a patient access position or a physician's office receptionist, and so therefore are on a limited income. And so this is kind of a tier for them to accomplish once they come into that entry-level position and they take the CPAR certification. We've also found that a lot of our facilities here in Alabama are using CPAR as a career laddering tool, so that if they are in an entry-level position with no previous patient access experience and that they attain their CPAR certification, then that bumps them up or provides them with a raise. And then so on. So that would be a concern. And we did like the CRCR when we reviewed the material. We did think, however, that might be more geared towards our supervisors or coordinators or leads, possibly managers with either inpatient access scheduling or business office. And that was just some thoughts. We actually had a call in Alabama with our president, vice president, and actually some of our areas that host the CPAR certifications, and we had several of them on the phone, and that was pretty much the consensus, is that we thought we might want to keep CPAR for that entry-level, lower entry-level type employee, and that gives them a career ladder, and then move up to that CRC for possibly the supervisors, coordinators, even leads, if you have leads in your area. So that was just some things that came out of our call before this call.
Wonderful. I really like the idea of the laddering. Just so you know, our experience out in the field is that the organizations using this tool are doing much the same. It is being required by many of them as a stepping stone to promotions to the next level. It is being used with the professional staff level, so the folks that are just a level below management. It is a very different look because it's about educating to the business, educating to how a facility gets paid across the revenue cycle. So it's not as specific to one position. Your model sounds wonderful. Entry level, and then part 2 would be CRCR if you're interested. HFMA has been working on a competency model. The CRCR, once that's accomplished, points directly towards the CHFP. So you can begin to do some career building off of this. Wonderful input. Thank you. And thank you for the call before the call.
We do have a question from our Q&A pod that relates to pricing, so we're going to go ahead and ask that one. Lynn Miller asks, is the cost all-inclusive of the study guide and the test?
Yes. It's an all-inclusive price.
That was easy. Good.
That's a good question, yes. I try not to nickel and dime anybody with this. The Board of Examiners, who are now responsible for this program, are peers of yours out in the industry. They were very concerned that it is an affordable price for people, but that it also has a little bit of heft, which talks about the value of this, and the fact that it carries the HFMA brand. The marketing for the CRCR, I probably should be clear about that for you. We would be marketing, of course, to HFMA members who would be interested in development for their staff. We also will be marketing to hospital healthcare provider HR folks to let them know that this is available for their use with the finance staff.
We do have another question in the Q&A pod. We've somewhat covered it, but I'm going to go ahead and mention it again just so we clarify. Linda Maddox asks, will the charge for the state-specific program be less? Currently, the fee for Alabama is much less, and the cost of $400 seems an awful lot for 10 to $15 an hour employees.
What we would do is bundle, in some capacity, the state-specific program into the CRCR program. So the value add for the $400 is that you also have the state content and possibly the state designation if the chapter wishes to go that way. Again, I would ask just for your consideration, most of the sales that we experience are organizational. They're not the single individuals. I'm not expecting a lot of folks at this level to come and purchase this on their own.
Okay. Once again, if you would like to join the audio discussion, you can hit *# on your telephone keypad. Justin, do we have any other audio questions at this time?
I don't believe that we do right now, no.
Okay. We do have a couple other questions from our Q&A pods. We're going to go ahead and ask those. This question has to do with collaboration. The question is, if we do collaborate, what happens to the existing designations that are out there? Can they be maintained? Are they going to go away? Joe touched on this a little bit, but I'm going to have him elaborate a little bit more.
That's a very good concern, because I know in several of the areas that the designations are recognized by the industry and are in many cases required for promotion and staff development. It would be very much a decision at the chapter level. We can award both designations if the chapter chooses, so someone would have the CRCR and, for example, the CRCA. We can eliminate those designations if the chapters so choose. My gut instinct would be to maintain both of the designations. I think there's some real value to talking about. I have a certification in the broad business sense, and I have our state-specific designation as well. That strikes me as a real value add. But the decision will be up to the chapter.
Another question that came in the Q&A pod has to do with the revenue sharing. Joe mentioned the possibility of revenue sharing, and could you expand a little bit more on that, what it would look like?
What we would do is sit down with the chapter, get a sense of what the revenue is for the chapter, and then begin to model out what would make sense for the chapter and for HFMA. My off the top of my head thinking is, a share obviously of the sales of the CRCR in the chapter. There may be other methods of making that happen too, such as an initial lump sum to you to help smooth costs over and going forward from there. We certainly would want to be sensitive to what you have in place and to protect that. The concern I hold, as I mentioned at the beginning, is I want to protect the legacy that you have. It's very strong and very good. So no, there's no model that's in place right now. It would be jointly developed.
Once again, if you want to join the audio discussion, hit *#, and obviously you can type in your questions in the Q&A pod. Another question that has come up is has to do with, excuse me, just how the process for integrating all of this, how it would all work. I'm sort of paraphrasing at this point. But what would be the chapter's role? When would it begin? Those types of things.
Very good. This program, as a certification, is now under the direction of HFMA's Board of Examiners. And like the CHFP program, the content will be reviewed yearly. It currently is reviewed and updated every year, especially as all the healthcare reform legislation moves along. The role of the chapter, if we would so choose, would be to maintain the currency of the state-specific content. We would ask the chapter to help us identify experts, reviewers in the area and in those regulations. We will do some light contracting with them for an annual review. The review of the content is done all electronically. It's all online. And we are responsible on this side for things like editing and proofing and making sure that the functionality occurs. If the chapter would like, we would take over all of the administration also of actually delivering the content and pushing it out. The examination, the certification examination for CRCR resides on HFMA's LMS. So we would ask the chapter if you would share your test item pool with us so that we can build questions on the exam that would include the state content that you would like to have covered. As a certification, one of the values of certification is that it attests not only to somebody's knowledge and skills, it talks about they're also current in the industry. So we will be putting in a maintenance requirement. There will be a retest required every 3 years, and that requirement will not go into effect until 2013. We need some time to help people understand what it is and how it works.
We have a couple chapter leaders who wanted to know if they can have access to the CRCR program so they can see what it's like and how it compares to their current programs.
Yes, we gave you a very high-level, quick look this afternoon. You have the document that does some high-level content analysis about content that's similar, content that is unique. I imagine that chapter leaders would want to take a deeper, more thorough look to make sure that the concerns that you have with content are covered. I can work with Jamie to provide access to chapter leaders for this period where we're trying to figure out which way to go. So I could make it available up to January the 1st. How about that? Do that for chapter leaders who are interested. What I would ask is if you would, after our call, follow up with Nancy in our chapter relations department, and then she can coordinate with our education staff.
Absolutely. Okay, that is all the questions we currently have in our Q&A pod, and I don't believe we have anything left in our audio queue. So one last time before we finish up things here, if anybody has any questions, hit *# on your telephone or type it into the Q&A pod. And we're not going to wrap things up yet, but before we end this discussion part of it, we'll give everybody just about 20 seconds to see if you have any other questions. And obviously, if you do have questions that come up after this, one of our slides here will show you contact information.
Yes.
It's one of those things when you get off the phone, then you'll think of it. Okay. We do have another question. Okay. Question is, what would be the cost for maintaining the certification every 3 years?
That's a very good question. We haven't quite built that out yet. It would be mostly to cover the cost of the exam itself, of providing that. So it would probably be somewhere in the neighborhood of about $100.
Okay. It doesn't look like we have any other questions. I'm going to turn the meeting back over to Joe. I am going to still monitor the Q&A pod, and Justin will be monitoring the audio part. So our very last thing before we end the meeting is we'll do one last double check in case something comes up. But in the meantime, I'm going to turn it back over to Joe.
Once again, if I could just remind you of the time schedule that was proposed by the presidents at our meeting August the 11th. By September 16, mid-September, I'd like to hear what direction you think you as a chapter would like to take. I can provide more information for you. I can provide access to the program. I'd be happy to enter into more technical discussions. Would be happy to get our finance people together with your finance people as need be. By January 1, we need to have a decision as to how we would like to partner or which way we are all going to go. My hunch is you might get off the call and say, oh, I do have another question. Or if you're like me, about 2 o'clock in the morning, something will come to you and you'll say, oh, I should ask about that. You see on the screen now, contact information for myself, for Shirley Hevlin, we are the certification staff, and chapter relations department. Nancy is the education coordinator for that. If you would like to call and talk more about this, kick tires about the program and how it would work, I'd be happy to do that at any time. Please don't hesitate to give me a call. With this, let me just give it back to Nancy.
Okay. Thanks, Joe. It doesn't look like we have any more questions in the Q&A pod or any audio questions. So I just wanted to expand a little bit on the resources part. You have obviously all the contact information here. If you are interested in seeing the CRCR actual program, you can get a hold of me by emailing through the chapter relations address that's up there at chapter@hfma.org. And if you have any other questions and happen to misplace Joe's contact information, just contact us at Chapter Relations and we'll make sure that you get connected. Yeah, at this point in time, I would like to thank everybody for all of their time this afternoon. We appreciate everybody's participation. Everybody who signed up joined us on the call, and we greatly appreciate that. So I think you'll have a good group of people to be able to share information when you go back to your meetings. I did want to remind you again that this had been recorded, and feel free when it is available in 2 weeks. We realize that probably nobody had every single board member on this meeting. So feel free to go ahead and, if you'd like to, play this at a board meeting if it's appropriate for everybody to hear the conversation. You'll be able to access it and just have it on a speaker in the middle of the boardroom. So with that being said, once again, thank you for your time. We appreciate all of your efforts and everything that you give to HFMA and our members, and enjoy the rest of the afternoon.